And that's the way not to use Chat GPT. You may think you can get away with it and you can hoodwink your teachers, and you might in fact be able to do so for a while, though I'm sure they'll catch up with you in the end. But let's just suppose that you make it all the way through high school without anyone catching on that you've been getting an AI to do your homework for you. Who's the real fool? You! The only person you've been tricking is yourself. Why? Because while you could have been using artificial intelligence to make yourself more intelligent, you will in fact have been using it to make yourself more stupid. A fact that will stick with you on your CV in the qualifications that you'll have gained for the rest of your life. Your generation is in fact blessed with an amazing technology that you could use to make yourself have one of the brightest minds there is, but only if you use it in the right way. That is, if you use it to make you more intelligent. This video will explain why you should not use AI to cheat, and then it'll show you exactly how to use Chat GPT as an AI tutor to help you think more deeply and become more intelligent. Now, I know that the temptation is there for you to use Chat GPT to do your homework assignments for you so that you can focus on things that are much more interesting and important. Gaming, anyone? Checking out your TikTok feed? I know that because I've already caught plenty of students playing that fool's game. But why is that so foolish, you might ask? If I can get away with it, what's the problem? I hate homework anyway. Well, there's really two reasons why that is not a great idea. And the first one is because homework is this really fantastic opportunity to develop your thinking more deeply than you can in the classroom. When you're in the class, you're going at the pace of the entire group. The teacher has to do that so that everybody can keep up. And that's great. But when you're by yourself, you've got this opportunity to go at your own pace, to learn and to think through things in your own way and at your own speed. Now, it's really important that you use those opportunities for working as an individual to think deeply, to give yourself a cognitive challenge. All the pedagogical research points to the fact that students who think hard and who think deeply make much more progress and develop their intelligence much more than students who are content to think about things in quite a superficial way. So if you're going to sit down with a chatbot and get it to write your essay, then just copy that essay from the chatbot into your exercise book, that's not very deep thinking, is it? I mean, it only requires a very superficial level of understanding for you to copy what's written down on a screen into your exercise book with your pen. You might learn something from doing that, but you're not going to learn as much as if you really write the essay yourself or do the maths task yourself and think through the problems deeply, giving yourself that cognitive challenge. The second reason it doesn't make any sense at all to cheat with ChatGPT is because the vast proportion of all the qualifications you're going to get are made up of assessments done in exam conditions. So if you're studying in the UK, you know that in May and June of your GCSE and A-level year, you're going to have to sit externally assessed exams. If you're studying in the USA and you've got your GPA score to worry about, then loads of that is made up of tests and exams done in exam conditions. You've also got to do presentations in public, and you've got to do practical work, and your teachers will be there for those things, and you can't cheat on those either, can you? Same thing with the IB. Lots of testing and exams and public presentations. Universities are exactly the same. How do they assess you? They do midterm and final exams. They also do presentations, vivas. They make you speak in public to show your knowledge. You can't cheat in any of those circumstances. And it's also becoming increasingly clear that faced with the like of Chat GPT and any future large language models, schools and universities are clearly going to move ever more towards more testing, more exam conditions, more presentations, more things done in public where you can't cheat. Of course they are, because that's how they can get reliable data on you to see if you really know what you say you do. So where am I going with all of this? Well, what I'm saying is that if you spent your entire school career just getting a chatbot to write your homework for you until you get to those final exams, then you've been making yourself more stupid. And that's going to be incredibly obvious when you sit down in the exams and you look at the exam paper and you haven't got a clue what to write in answer to the questions, just as I showed you in my skit at the top of the show. All right, you might say. Okay, you've convinced me, but I don't need to do all my subjects properly. I hate English lit. I'll just do my essays for that with Chat GPT so I can spend more time focusing on science and maths, which I really like. Well, that is a big call to make because that's going to mean that you're really going to get very uneven exam results, and elite universities, and really any good university, they're not going to want that at all. They want to see all-rounders, people who really get top marks in every subject, as we discussed in this video. In short, GPT crime doesn't pay. Picture a world in which you leave the classroom, you go home, and you continue to learn with your own personal tutor, but at no extra cost to you or your family. That world is really starting to exist. Until now, only the rich have been able to give their kids a leg up in the world by employing a private tutor. But now, with the advent of Chat GPT and its successors, anyone who's got the right attitude can use those large language models as a tutor to help them outside of school. You just need to learn a few basic tricks. You need to learn how to give these AIs some prompts so that they will start asking you questions just like a tutor and quizzing you and developing your ideas like a tutor. And that's going to give you that cognitive challenge that we were talking about earlier that will make you think really deeply and will start to make you understand things more and become more intelligent. Now, I will preface what I'm about to tell you about how to use these AIs as tutors with a couple of strong warnings. The first of which is that these large language models don't always get it right. They have been known to make mistakes, factual mistakes. So you've got to approach them with a critical mindset, just as we were discussing in this video on critical thinking. When you're working with an AI tutor, you should always be asking yourself, can I trust what it's saying to me right now? And if there's any inkling of doubt in your mind about what the chatbot is telling you, then you want to go to another source to confirm whether what it said is correct or not. I will also say that I am an English expert. And in my subjects, English language and English literature, there's not really, most of the time, a right answer. And in those kinds of subjects where it's about interpretation, Chat GPT really is quite an incredible tool because it's able to give you these suggestions about how you might interpret a character or a theme, for example. But I do know that in subjects like maths, for example, where there is a right and a wrong answer, you've got to be really very careful with Chat GPT and make sure that it's definitely giving you the right answer. So with maths and science subjects, be extra critical in the way you approach your work with an AI tutor. One top tip I have about using Chat GPT is that if you think the conversation has taken a distinct turn away from reality, then the best thing to do is just to ditch that particular conversation and to start a new one. It's very possible that it will get it right in the new conversation. But in my experience, once it starts to go off the rails, it's almost impossible for it to come back to reality. So yeah, if things are going awry, just ditch that conversation with it and start a brand new one. With all of that in mind, if you use them wisely, these large language models can help you immeasurably. You just need to know how to give them the right prompts. That's a key word, the prompt. So the prompt is the first thing you write down in the conversation you're going to have with the chatbot. And in that prompt, you are telling it how you want to behave and what you want it to do in the conversation you're about to have. So I'm going to give you an example of a prompt which I have used with Chat GPT 3.5, which is the free version that anybody can use. And it's a prompt I've used in order to discuss literary texts. So you just copy this into the conversation right at the beginning of the conversation, and you substitute in the name of the book you're reading, what chapter you're on, and a few of your thoughts about the book. And then your chatbot tutor will start having a conversation with you and getting you to develop your ideas about that text. If you put in the prompt exactly as I've given it to you, then the chatbot should start asking you questions, one question at a time, about the text you're reading and the chapter you're studying. That's exactly what it's done with me, Chat GPT 3.5, as I said before, the free version, when I've used that prompt. Just give it a go and you'll see what I mean immediately. It's going to ask you these questions that are going to force you to think deeply. They're going to give you that cognitive challenge we've been talking about that's going to help you to develop your ideas and to become more intelligent. You can see that this is a world away from getting it to do your homework essays for you. You don't need it for that. You need it for this deeper thinking so you can develop your ideas. In fact, a really good time in your school year to use it is when it comes to revision as part of, not all of, but part of your revision program. Have conversations with your AI tutor. Get it to help you develop your thoughts. That's going to make you more intelligent. The most important thing for you to do is to go and get experimenting with Chat GPT as soon as you can. Try it out first with this prompt for the English literature text that I've given you, see how that goes, and then start thinking about different conversations you could have with it and giving it slightly different prompts for other subjects such as history or geography or the sciences or maths. Give it different prompts, see how it gets on with them, and modify them if you need to. Get experimenting and you'll see how it works and how you can make it work better for you. Remember, your goal is for it to ask you questions to get you to think in new ways about texts, about subjects, about science, about whatever, and to make you more intelligent. The other thing you can do is to play around with the GPT that I created, which is a reading version of a chatbot, which guides you through the reading process that I taught in my Developing Reading Skills course. So have a go with that and see how you get along with it, and let me know how you get on in the comments here. Do be aware that if you want to try out that particular GPT, you do need to be subscribed to Chat GPT 4, which is the paid version. So you can't play around with that one for free. So go away and start experimenting with this amazing new technology, which is going to have an enormous impact. It's really going to help those people who can use it wisely. And it's not going to help those people who use it to cheat. People who use it wisely are going to become more intelligent, and people who use it to cheat are going to become more stupid. So be on the intelligent side of the equation. It's particularly going to help those families who can't afford to have a personal tutor. It's really revolutionary. Let me know how you get along in your experiments with ChatGPT and other large language models by leaving me a comment to explain your experiences to me. And do please let me know how you get on if you try out my reading GPT. I'll put a link to that and a link to my reading course in the description below. I'd be fascinated to hear how you get on with those. And in the meantime, do watch my 2 videos that I mentioned earlier on academic excellence and on critical thinking. Those will remind you why it's important to work hard for all your subjects and not cheat on any of them, and how to approach anything, including a chatbot, with a skeptical attitude. Watch those videos as reminders.